My brain won't let my guard down, even though I am safe now. You lock the doors, the room is quiet, nothing is happening. But your body stays alert, like something is about to go wrong. You try to relax, but the tension never leaves. Your muscles stay tight, your breathing stays shallow. Even rest feels like a risk your body refuses to take. And this creates a strange contradiction. You know you're safe, but your brain doesn't agree. So what changed inside your nervous system that keeps you in danger mode? And this is where your experience starts to make sense. Because it's not just in your head, it's in your body. The tension, the scanning, the inability to switch off. You feel it when your body physically aches from staying tense. When you're exhausted, but your brain refuses to shut down. When even silence feels loud because your mind won't stop tracking. You notice it in small moments. Jumping at sudden noises, freezing over simple decisions, feeling like you're walking through a minefield inside your own head. And then the deeper patterns show up. You check the doors again, then again. You panic when someone is just being nice to you. Something in your system is still expecting danger, even when there is none. And here's the first clue. Chronic stress can lock the brain into a persistent threat detection state. So the real question becomes, why does your brain keep detecting danger when the danger is already gone? So now you're stuck in a loop that doesn't make logical sense. Nothing is happening, but your system won't power down. And that's where the confusion starts to build. You start asking questions that don't have clear answers. Why can't I function like I used to? Why does my brain shut down over small things? There's a split forming inside your experience. Your logic says you're safe, but your body reacts like you're still under threat. And over time, that gap gets wider. You hesitate on simple decisions. You over-explain everything. You feel detached, numb, or suddenly overwhelmed without warning. So the question becomes more personal. Did something break inside my brain? Did the stress permanently change how I function? Studies of stress physiology show something important here. When the brain is exposed to prolonged threat, it doesn't just react, it adapts its baseline for survival. But that leads to a deeper problem. If your brain adapted to survive that environment, why hasn't it adapted back now that the environment is gone? To understand why this happens, you need to shift how you interpret it. This is not your brain failing. This is your brain executing a survival strategy it learned over time. During prolonged exposure to psychological stress, the nervous system changes priorities. It stops optimizing for calm, focus, or long-term thinking. It starts optimizing for detection, anticipation, and rapid response. That shift is not subtle. It's a full reallocation of energy. This is why you are so deeply exhausted. Your system is burning its fuel, asking one question repeatedly. Where is the next threat? So even when you finally escape the environment, your biological baseline doesn't just reset, because your brain is not reacting to the present. It is operating on patterns it learned from the past. Brain imaging research shows that under chronic stress, threat processing systems become dominant. They fire faster, they stay active longer, and they begin to override systems responsible for relaxation and safety. This is why you can't just let it go. You are not choosing to stay on edge. Your nervous system has been trained to believe that staying alert is what keeps you alive. Which brings us to the core biological problem. What specific mechanism inside your brain is actually locking you in this state of alert?
To understand what's locking this state in place, we need to identify the system in control. Because your brain isn't randomly overreacting. It is being hijacked by a specific neural circuit designed for survival. At the center of this is your brain's primary alarm system, the amygdala. This system scans your environment for anything that could signal danger. It is constantly asking one question: is there a threat here? Under normal conditions, it works in balance with the prefrontal cortex. One detects threat, the other evaluates and calms it down. Together, they decide what is actually dangerous and what is not. But under prolonged psychological stress, that balance changes. The threat system becomes hypersensitive, and the regulation system begins to lose control. Neuroscience research shows that chronic stress strengthens amygdala activity. It becomes faster at detecting patterns linked to past danger, even when those patterns are weak, indirect, or no longer relevant. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex becomes less effective. The rational part of your brain, the part that tells you you're safe now, literally goes offline. It can no longer override the alarm. This creates a new operating mode. Your brain stops asking, "Is this dangerous?" and starts assuming this could be dangerous. So when someone raises their voice slightly, your system reacts. When the room gets quiet, your brain starts scanning. When nothing is wrong, your body prepares anyway. And this leads to the real shift. Your brain is no longer detecting danger accurately. It is predicting danger automatically, which raises the next layer of the problem. If the brain is predicting threat by default, what is happening inside the body that keeps feeding this signal? To understand why the amygdala stays active, you have to look beyond the brain, because the signal doesn't begin and end in your thoughts. It is being continuously reinforced by your body. Under prolonged stress, your system shifts into sustained hormone release, specifically a constant drip of cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals are biological jet fuel designed to keep you alert, reactive, and ready. In short bursts, this system is protective. It sharpens attention. It prepares your body for action. Then it shuts off once the threat is gone. But under prolonged exposure, that shutdown process fails. Cortisol stays elevated. Adrenaline keeps cycling, and your nervous system no longer returns to baseline. Studies of stress physiology show that prolonged cortisol exposure reshapes brain signaling. It keeps the amygdala highly reactive, and it weakens the brain's ability to shut the alarm off. At the same time, your body shifts into energy conservation state. Resources are pulled away from recovery and long-term function and redirected toward constant environmental scanning. This is exactly why you are exhausted all day, but your brain refuses to shut down at night. Your energy isn't going toward healing. It is being burned purely to maintain hypervigilance. And then the loop closes. The brain anticipates a threat. The body releases adrenaline. The brain feels that surge and says, "See, we must be in danger." So the alarm sustains itself, even when the environment is completely safe, which leads to the real-world impact. What does it actually feel like to live inside a system that never exits survival mode?
So this is what it feels like from the inside. Not just anxiety, not just stress, but a nervous system that no longer recognizes safety as real. This is why small things feel overwhelming, why simple decisions suddenly feel impossible to make, why your brain freezes when nothing is actually wrong. You're not imagining it. When your system is locked in threat prediction, everything carries weight. Even basic tasks start to feel like potential risks. This is why you jump at sudden noises, why you feel like you're constantly on edge in your own home, why your body stays tense even when you're trying to rest. It's also why your thinking changes. You over-explain, you second-guess, you scan people's reactions, because your brain is trying to prevent the next perceived threat. Neuroscience research shows that when threat systems dominate, executive function drops. The brain reduces energy to planning, focus, and decision-making, because survival becomes the priority. To understand recovery, you have to stay within the same system, because this is not a mindset problem. It is a nervous system recalibration process. The brain does not switch out of survival mode instantly, because it did not enter this state instantly. It learned it through repeated exposure to unpredictable stress. So recovery follows the same rule. It is not a single shift. It is a gradual repatterning of safety detection. Research on nervous system regulation shows that the brain updates its threat models slowly. It requires repeated exposure to environments that do not confirm danger. And over time, the alarm system begins to reduce its sensitivity. This means the amygdala does not need to be turned off. It needs to be recalibrated through consistent signals of safety, so it stops predicting threat by default. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex begins to come back online, not all at once, but in small moments where the system realizes nothing bad happened. This is how the loop starts to weaken. The brain predicts danger, and nothing follows. The body prepares, and no threat appears. And slowly, the prediction begins to change. Not because you forced it, but because the system gathered new evidence. This is why the process can feel slow and inconsistent, because your biology is updating patterns built over time, not flipping a switch. But the key shift is this: your nervous system is not stuck. It is adaptive, which leads to the final question. If the brain can learn safety again, how long does it actually take for that system to fully reset? So now the pattern becomes clear. Your brain did not forget how to relax. It learned that relaxing was not safe. And once that association is built, it doesn't disappear when the situation ends. Because your nervous system is not tracking time. It is tracking patterns.
That is why the alarm continues, not because the danger is still present, but because your system is still running the last confirmed survival model. Studies on neural adaptation show that the brain prioritizes prediction over accuracy. It would rather assume danger and be wrong than miss a threat and be unprepared. So even in a safe room with no external threat, your system replays the same signals, and your body responds as if the past is happening again. This is the final shift to understand. Your experience is not a reflection of your current reality. It is a reflection of how your brain was trained to protect you. And that raises the next question. If your brain is running an outdated survival prediction, how long does it take for the brain to finally update that model? To see the exact timeline of nervous system recovery and the stages your brain has to go through to get there, click the video on your screen right now.